Life Audio.
The Bible Study Podcast, episode 929. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues the study of the book of Luke with more from chapter 8 and possibly starting in chapter 9. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. We're going to continue on with chapter 8 and possibly start chapter 9, but first a word from this sponsor. Chapter 8, we left off in verse 39, and so we're going to start here at verse 40, which is Jesus raises a dead girl and heals a sick woman. Now when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Then a man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house, because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, was dying. As Jesus was on the way, the crowds almost crushed him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. But no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told him why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," he said. "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid. Just believe, and she will be healed." When he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. "Stop wailing," Jesus said. "She is not dead, but asleep." They all laughed at him, knowing she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were astonished, but he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. So it's an interesting story here because there's two different healings that are going on, one that's getting in the way of the other. And the interesting part about it to me is we have a 12-year-old and a woman who has been sick or having this bleeding for 12 years. And so there's this parallelism in this story, but there are some things that are very different. So this Jairus, because of his position, he would be well known in the community. And we also see that when they arrive at his house, that there are lots of people who are there mourning this loss. So very popular, very public. And then we get this woman, and this woman has been subject to bleeding for 12 years. And there's two things to understand about this. One is the medical problem. She's had some medical problem that has caused her to bleed, and no one can heal her. She's been to different doctors, apparently, or physicians or whatever. She's tried different things, but she has not been healed. The other thing to understand, though, is she's a Jewish woman and subject to the law. And because she's subject to the law, during her time of bleeding, her monthly period, she would be considered unclean. And if she's been bleeding for 12 years, she has been unclean for 12 years. And that is going to make her more an outsider, someone who other people are going to get unclean if they interact with her. And so we have one very public and very prominent, and one who has become an outsider because of her ailment. And the other issue is, in this time, if she's had this problem for 12 years, people would wonder what is wrong with her. What has she done to have this problem? That's the other thing in this day and age that people would wonder. So public, private, prominent, outsider. And so Jairus comes, and Jesus has sometimes had problems with synagogue leaders before, with teachers of the law, but this Jairus may or may not have had a problem with Jesus before, but when your daughter is sick, you go to wherever you can get help. And so he falls at Jesus' feet and pleads because his only daughter is dying. And what else do you do? And so what he wants is for Jesus to come as quickly as possible to the house. And remember that that's what's going on in his mind when Jesus stops because some woman has touched him. Crowds are pushing in, and he says, somebody touched me. And it seems like a ridiculous thing because lots of people touched him. He's in a crowd. There are all sorts of people jostling him, it says. The crowds almost crushed him. Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you, as Peter says. Jesus says, no, somebody touched me and power went out. I know that something just happened. Now, all of this is going on while Jairus is thinking, could we move along? Because my daughter is dying. And then this woman understands that she can't get away with just quietly touching Jesus and sneaking away, and has to say, it was me. I did it, and I was healed. And then Jesus gets to publicly say to this woman who is outcast that you are healed. Your faith has made you well. He is basically also restoring her to community at this time. He is telling everyone, this woman who you have been shunning likely is now clean. But the worst thing in the world that Jairus could think of is that Jesus is delayed and his daughter dies, and that is what happens. Someone comes and says, it's too late. It's too late. She has died. Don't bother Jesus anymore. And Jesus says, don't worry about it. Have faith. And he goes, and despite the fact that people are mourning her, despite the fact that she is dead, he brings her back. It's an interesting thing here. It says her spirit returned. It's one of the places in the Bible that really talks about the idea that we are spirit and body, and that the spirit had left and now returned. We have that sort of picture, but there aren't that many places in the Bible that really talk about it in that fashion. And it says, give her something to eat. She was astonished, but he says, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. This is not for the crowds. This is just for you and for her. And then let's continue on a little bit into chapter 9 here. Jesus sends out the 12. When Jesus had called the 12 together, he gave them power and authority to drive out all demons and to cure diseases. He sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. He told them, take nothing for the journey, no staff, no bag, no bread, no money, no extra shirt. Whatever house you enter, stay there until you leave that town. If people do not welcome you, leave their town and shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them. So they set out and went from village to village, proclaiming the good news and healing people everywhere. Now Herod the Tetrarch heard about all that was going on, and he was perplexed because some were saying that John had been raised from the dead, others that Elijah had appeared, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago had come back to life. But Herod said, I beheaded John. Who then is this I hear such things about? And he tried to see him. We're going to hear more about Herod in that Holy Week, in that last week before Easter. But going here to the story of sending out the 12, Jesus at this point is preparing the disciples for what they're going to be doing after he leaves, right? They're going to take over this ministry after Easter. And so he now gives them power and authority that they can do what he's been doing. And we're going to have Jesus send out 70 people later on, but he starts with the 12. He starts with the closest people to him and says, don't take anything. Don't pack. Don't take money. Don't take food. You're going to be relying on the generosity of the people you're going to. You're going to have to interact with people, because you're not going to have anything that you can provide for yourself. You're going to have to trust me, and you're going to have to trust them. And when you enter a house, it says stay there, and then see if the people welcome you. Some will, some won't, right? He's not saying that this is all going to be going well, But he's saying this is what you're supposed to do. They will do what they do, but this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to the people and cast out demons and cure diseases and proclaim the kingdom of God and heal the sick. This is what you're supposed to do. They may or may not accept you. But he says if they don't, just shake the dust off your feet and go somewhere else. Do what you are called to do, no matter what the response is. That's something that we should take into account also, is we are called to do what Jesus calls us to do, to serve in whatever fashion that we have been equipped to serve, in whatever fashion we are enabled, in whatever place he puts us. We are not responsible for how people respond, but for being faithful to the calling of Jesus. With that, we're going to end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. If you have any questions, send an email to chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
Looking for ways to stay positive? Brighten your day with the Free Story Behind podcast. Hear weekly short stories that showcase true joy, love, and hope. Listen now at lifeaudio.com or by searching for Story Behind wherever you get your podcasts.